When we talk about microservices, it's so easy to get totally lost in the tech. We're talking containers, APIs, all that good stuff. But here's the thing. The companies that really truly nail this kind of architecture, they focus on something completely different first. Their people. See, adopting microservices isn't really a tech problem. It's an organizational change problem.
So how do you know if your organization is actually ready to make the leap? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dig into. We'll look at how to size up your readiness, what it even means to refactor your teams, how to make changes without blowing everything up, and why the shift from a project to a product mindset is an absolute game changer. And then we'll wrap it all up with one final takeaway.
All right, first things first. Before you even think about writing a single line of code for a shiny new service, you have to ask the most important question of all. Is our organization even built for this to work?
And look, this isn't a simple yes or no question. The real answer is buried deep in your company's DNA. It's in how your teams are built, how they talk to each other, and who's responsible for what. This is way more about people and process than it is about programming languages.
Think of these questions as a kind of organizational X-ray. For example, are your teams built around a piece of tech, like a database team, or are they built around a part of the business, like a user checkout team? That second one is a much, much better fit. Do you really practice DevOps, or do you just have developers and operations people who barely speak to each other? Because that wall creates a ton of friction. And what about power? If a team needs 6 different sign-offs just to make a small change, you've already lost the speed that microservices are supposed to give you.
So what's the whole point of this X-ray? It's to see how close you are to this ideal right here. This is the blueprint, small empowered teams that own a specific piece of the business. If your organization looks totally different, that's okay. It doesn't mean you can't do microservices. It just means you've got some work to do on the foundation first.
Okay, so let's say your organization doesn't quite match that ideal blueprint. What do? Well, you change it. And this leads us to a really powerful idea that connects the way your teams are structured directly to the software you end up building.
This right here is the famous Conway's Law. And honestly, it might be the single most important thing to understand when you're thinking about microservices. It was written all the way back in 1968, but believe me, it has never been more relevant than it is today. So what does that actually mean? Let me put it this way. If your teams work in silos and don't talk to each other, you are going to build a monolithic, siloed piece of software. It's almost guaranteed. So if what you want is an architecture of small independent services, you first have to build an organization of small independent teams. The architecture will literally follow your org chart.
So how do you change the org chart without causing total chaos? Well, you borrow an idea from software development, refactoring. Now, we're not talking about some massive, disruptive, top-down reorg. No. We're talking about making small, safe, gradual changes to improve the design of the organization itself.
Okay, so what does this look like in the real world? This isn't about just guessing and hoping for the best. It's a real, step-by-step process for evolving your organization in a way that doesn't break everything.
It really comes down to these 3 steps. First, you got to figure out how you'll know if a change is actually working. How will you measure success? Second, go on a hunt for the pain points. Where are things getting stuck? Is it a super slow code review process? A deployment that takes an entire day? Those are your targets. And finally, you make a small, safe change, something that won't disrupt the whole system. Maybe you embed an operations person into a development team for a while. Then you measure, you learn, and you do it all over again. But here's the catch. You can make all these structural changes you want, but if the culture underneath doesn't change, none of it will stick. And that brings us to maybe the biggest mindset shift of all, moving from thinking about projects to truly owning products.
Let's just compare these 2 worlds. A project-centric culture is all about temporary teams. A team gets together, builds a thing, launches it, and then poof, they all scatter to the 4 winds. And all that knowledge they built up, it's gone, which makes any future changes slow and super risky. Now, in a product-centric world, a team owns a service for its entire life. They build it, they run it, and they keep making it better. That creates this incredible sense of ownership, which means they're always learning. This is the only way a microservice architecture can actually survive in the long run.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, from taking an X-ray of your teams all the way to shifting your company's entire culture. So let's boil all this down to the essential blueprint for success.
If you walk away with nothing else, remember these 3 things. 1. Assess first. Your org structure is the real foundation, so look at it honestly before you do anything else. 2. Refactor your organization. Use small, safe, repeatable changes to get your teams aligned with the architecture you want. And 3.
own your products. Ditch the temporary project mindset and build a culture where teams are proud to own their work for the long haul.
So I'll leave you with this one last question to think about. When you really look at your own company, at the way people are rewarded, the way teams are structured, the whole culture, is it truly built to own products, or is it just a factory for finishing projects? The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about how ready you really are.
And that's all for this explainer. Hey, if this helped you think about microservices a little differently, do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone, and definitely subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.